good to talk to you all virtually over this session. A very important time that we're doing. So the design and implementation stage should all be completed by 15 December 2022. So when the standard, it says that it's effective 15 December 2022, it means that the whole SOQM must be in place by 15 December 2022. So the question is, ISQM 1, ISQM 2, and ISA 220 revised, who does it apply to? As been set out in ISQM, this standard actually applies to all firms, okay, who applies or performs audits or assurance services, review of financial statements or other related services under the IAASB standards. Okay, so if you are a firm who actually do audit, who do assurance services or any other related services in accordance with IAASB standards, then you are actually caught under ISQM standards. Okay, so ISQM 1. Okay, there are three. ISQM 1 basically deals with the design and implementation of SOQM, as I mentioned earlier, and compared to the ISQC 1 that we have in place at the moment, and which should be replaced by ISQM 1, it basically enhances the whole robustness of the firm's SOQM. Okay, whereby the firm needs to actually customize their system of quality management. Okay, based on the quality objectives that is set out in the standards. So you need to come up with your quality risks or risks that how you are going to address those quality objectives, and you need to design responses to that. So in a whole, ISQM 1 is a very integrated and more proactive approach towards quality management as compared to the previous ISQC 1 standards, okay, which is very policy-based standard. So the focus under ISQM 1 is achieving quality objectives through identifying quality risks and responding to the quality risks. Okay, and a very special importance that is placed under ISQM 1 is enhanced firm governance and leadership. Okay, so there is a special mention about how the governance and leadership aspect of the firm needs to be implemented in ISQM 1, and that's placed that a lot of emphasis is placed on governance and leadership. Okay, the standard also takes into account of modernization. Okay, so the technology, the networks, and external service providers aspects have also been addressed in ISQM 1, and as well as improved information and communication aspects. Okay, and finally, there's a lot of attention, okay, in terms of proactive monitoring and effective remediation, okay, within the firm. So these are some of the aspects that is covered under ISQM 1, and under ISQM 2, briefly, there's very much more robust requirements in terms of what are the engagements to be selected for engagement quality review, and also as it also spells out who performs the engagement quality review and how the review is performed and documented. So there's much more robust requirements in terms of ISQM 2. And finally, we talk about ISA 220 revised quality management. This is at the engagement level. So there is increased responsibilities on the engagement partner for managing and achieving quality. And there are a lot of enhancements that are made in relation to the direction, supervision, and review, okay, as well as resources and how the engagement partner should be sufficiently and appropriately involved throughout the audit. Finally, before I pass on to the speakers today, I think ISQM generally is a risk-based approach in designing and implementing and operating the components of system of quality management within the firm. So I think if you look at ISQM 1, it talks about scalability. So basically, it means tailoring your system of quality management in relation to your firm's circumstances, your firm's the audit engagements that you have. So under ISQC1, it's very much policies and procedures that are supposed to be followed by everyone. But under ISQM1, it's a bit different. Okay, you need to tailor your quality risk and your responses based on that.
Today, I'm going to share with you is our journey, right? The firm journey that we are moving from quality control to quality management. Okay. So at the very beginning, I think the first thing that we have done, right, it is very important that it is to understand yourself, right? To understand the firm, to look into the structures, right? Identifies how many departments and or related corporations that you have, and what are all the services, either is it assurance or is it a non-assurance, right? All the services that you're provided by each of these department or related corporation. So the first thing is we need to know what are we doing, right? What are the services that we are providing, right? So that is very important because that is to identify that what are the risks that we will face. Okay, so this is a very first step of the risk assessment process, that is to understand ourselves. Then we will have to look into our existing policies and procedures. So whether it is written or unwritten, no problem, right? So you just have to identify what are the existing policies and procedures that we have, and ask yourself when you go through all these policies and procedures that why are we doing this, right? And what is this checklist for? So what are the purpose that we're trying to achieve by having this checklist, this form, these documentations, right? So when you're doing that, in fact, you are partly that you are also implementing the ISQM1, which is you identify what is your objective, you identify what is your risk, and you identify what are the responses that you need to do. So what is the procedures that you need to carry out? So when we are trying to understand ourselves in this process, we are trying to understand what we have done, right? What in so far, what we have done in our practices that to address all these risks that have been in existence since day one when we joined. All right. So we have been doing that. So we need to know that how far that we have done. Then from there, you identify that what are those that which is the new requirements that we have to add into our policies and procedures. And what are those that we are doing now is not sufficient, right? When we look into the processes that the processes that we have and the services that we are providing and the current operational level, we have to see that whether the process that we have now existing that you are on the run, whether it is sufficient. So if it is not, then how are we going to enhance, right? So that's the second thing that we have to identify, right? So this is basically, it is partly that when you're moving into ISQM1, all right? So what we need to do is we have to work with the resources that we have, right? Resources is something very essential, and it's very difficult for us to increase our resources in a very short period of time. So all we can do is to work the best out of what we have, right? So you look into your original, the quality control manual that you have, the 10 years old QCM that you have. So what you have there, right? So modify from there and enhance that QCM, make it from a quality control manual, become a quality management manual, right? So that is the beginning, that how we can start. And then look into our operational process. So whether all these operational process are in line with your QCM, whether you have properly documented all your operational process. So whether there is any unwritten rules that in your firm. So you have to identify those, put it out into black and white so that you can monitor to see that what are the processes that you have, what are the procedures that you have. Go through the form, go through the checklist, go through your audit program. So any of those meets the requirements that which is to address certain risks. So identify those, right? From there, we're working on with ISQM1 to make enhancement, right? So if we make it easier for you to start, instead of you are starting from zero, right? So we are not starting from zero. We are starting from what we have now. So what is applied? What are we applying now, right? So we are not working from zero. So then you will find that it doesn't look so scary anymore, right? And another thing that when we are going through the discussions amongst the partner is very important is the change of the mindset, right? So we are changing from a detection-oriented mode to a prevention-oriented mode. So when we are in the ISQC regime, we are to detect, right? What are the mistakes that we might have? What are the mistakes that we might miss? And what are the risks that we might miss, right? So when we move into the ISQM, we are in the prevention mode, right? So we are trying to do risk assessment to identify what are the possible risks, and then we address the risks in advance, right? Before it's happened, we put out all the policy procedures that to manage those possible risks, right? So even though it's happened, it is manageable, right? So that is ISQM. Okay, so for us to do this, right, we have to change our mindset and always be a questioning mind. So if we do this, what will happen? Who will be affected, right? And how are we going to address this issue if something happened, right? So you always have to ask yourself when you're doing something new, when you are implementing a procedures. And another thing that I find that is very, very important is the communication channel, right? You must set a communication channel because information gathering is very important when you are working on the risk assessment process. You must have sufficient information as a basis for you to assess what are the risks that you are facing and what are the level of risk that you are facing, right? And when you are to gather this information must be able to sync with all other processes, all other procedures that you have and the system that you have within your structure, within your organization. So there must be a designated person to take in control, to monitor. So whether this information is consistent with Department A, Department B, Department C, and whether this information is genuine, whether it is reliable, right? So that is very important. You must have somebody in control, right, to monitor all these informations that you gather, okay? So at the very beginning, these are the three main things that I believe that you need to start off with. So to go through with you the transition process, right? So when you are to work on this, the first thing is, of course, you have to read ISQM, right? Whether you like it or not. Yes, it is a very long, and it is very tedious. So maybe when you look at it 3 minutes, you can fall asleep. But anyway, you still have to read it, and you have to read it entirely. Because at the front there, those paragraphs, they are the requirements. And at the back, there are applications material that which is to help you understand what are the principles in the ISQM. So you have to sit down one day and to read and to understand the entire ISQM from the first page to the last page so that you will know, right, what exactly the principle is about, that you can understand how we should interpret, right, these principles. Okay, and with a questioning mind that always asks, so if this is what is the risk that we identify and how we're going to address it. So if we want to do this, so what are the objectives that we need to achieve for us to get what we want, right, to get the result that we want, then identify what are the possible risks and how we're going to achieve that. So it is very important that you must understand the principles of ISQM before you do anything. Then after you have understand that, then you compare your QCM to your ISQM, right? So you do a comparison to identify those that what we already have in our system that which is can address the issue in ISQM. And what are those that this is the new and the enhanced procedures that you need to add in and how we should design those procedures. So that is the second step you have to do. So when we're talking about this, right, just to highlight to you that this is one of the paragraphs that you must read, right? So it is not 34A, it is the paragraph 34, right? So this paragraph 34 is the specific responses that is something that it must in your procedures, right? So this is the paragraph that you cannot miss. You must take a look because this is a must-do thing, right? The rest, you can apply scalability. So when you do not have that risk, then you don't have to do or you can do less, right? But in these specific responses, it is a must do. So you must take notes on this. So you need to look at this paragraph 34. All right. So you move on there, you do a stock take of yourself. So existing, this is what we have. We have the existing manual. We already have all the paragraphs that in your manual, and then you have the policy, you have the procedures, you have the form, you have the checklist, right? You have the audit program. So how are we going to enhance that? Or do you need to design a brand new form or brand new checklist to meet the purpose, right? So this is where that you start to plan what to do and how to do, right? So a lot of discussion will occur here, right? That you have to look into the the requirements in the ISQM, and also to look into what you have. So to decide whether you are to do something new, to create a new form, or you combine the form, or how you can address that issues. Okay. So after you have done all this, you come up with your form, you come up with your checklist, you update your policy, you update your procedures, right? You identify everything. The next thing is you have to tidy up your working paper. So under the ISQM requirements, you have to keep the records of the working process, such as how you perform your risk assessment, right? So what are the factors that you have considered, and what are the quality objectives that you have identified, and with that quality objective, so what are the possible risks that you have identified, and then what are the procedures that you have designed, and what are the form that you have designed to do the documentations, and also to document down your assessment, and to document down how you arrive at your conclusion and what are the actions that you are taken. All right. So you have to put this all in as a working paper. All right. And this working paper must be kept and available for review when the regulator come over. So if the regulator, the MIA practice review come over, they want to review your quality control management's manual. So they are not just looking at the manual itself, but they will ask you that, can you share with me your risk assessment process? Okay, so they will need to look into whether you have identified the correct risk, right? Whether you have identified all the possible risks, whether there is anything that you have missed out, right? Then they will point it out to you. So meaning that you are just like an auditor. After you have done the risk assessment process, you have to keep all your workings, and this working must be kept in a manner that able to be understood by your future reviewers. All right. So I find there's one thing that which is very helpful, right? Is to do benchmarking. So after you have done your policies, you have come out with your all your worksheets and all the forms that you have, you do a benchmarking, right? The benchmarking meaning that, so this paragraph in the in your manual, right, for that policy is to refer to, is to comply with which paragraph in your ISQM. And by doing this, by performing this policy, right, then you are to fill up which forms or which checklist, and then this checklist will be kept where, right? In the central file rooms, that which is to keep all the general documents, or is kept in your engagement files, right? So that you can have a full picture of your quality management, right? So you have your risk assessment process, you have your policies in place, and then you also have your responses, your procedures, and where you document the result, the outcomes of your procedures. All right. So I believe that that is something that it will be very helpful when you are trying to explain to the regulators that what you have done, and what you have what are the changes that you have made to your system that to comply with ISQM, right? So you very easily that you can just refer back it to the respective paragraph in the ISQM. All right. So implementations, right? The timeline. So I find that it will be very helpful that if you make an official announcement on the effective dates of your new policy, if you have not do so, right? So you have to inform everybody, because this is not just the management responsibility, but it is the responsibilities of everyone in the firm, right? So you make a official announcement on the effective date, and what are the properly roll out the new procedures, to give briefing, to provide examples, right? How you should fill up this form, and what are the purpose of the form, and what are the outcomes that and the result that you're trying to achieve by completing this particular checklist or forms, right? So I find that will be very helpful for you to implement the new policies under the ISQM, right? So just to share with you a very simple illustrative example on the new client process, right? This is okay. The requirements, right? So if you look at the ISQM 1 paragraph 30, right? So this is the paragraph 30 that it is on the acceptance and continuance of client relationship. So it's talk about, when you look at the wording, it sounds like it is something very bombastic and very difficult to understand. But after you have read this, basically this paragraph 30A is talking about that you have to identify what the type of engagement that you are working on, right? The nature and the scope of work you need to identify. And then you have to make sure that you have checked the integrities and ethical values of the prospective client before you accept the new client. All right. And you also have to assess the firm ability to perform the work with quality. So you have to look into yourself. Do you have sufficient resources? Do you have the expertise to perform the work? And the last thing that to talk about in B is the firm's financial and operational priorities. So if you look at 1, 2, 3, right, this is nothing new to us. All right, this is something that we have been doing since day one. Right, when we are to accept a new client, we have to identify what are the scope of work that we need to perform, what are the type of engagement, right? We do that. And then we also need to look into the client to check the client backgrounds, right? To check their backgrounds, and then to look into their previous year audited financial statement to see whether there is any qualification to do an understanding of our previous client. And then we also trying to get to know the directors to see, whether they are to check on the to evaluate the integrities, right? So this is something that we have been doing, right? So it is nothing new, but it just now, right, that you need to do a proper documentations on this. But we have been having this documentation in place, isn't it? Right? So it is not something new, right? But maybe the next one, all right, is it something new that you are more interested in, right? So about the firm's financial and the operational priorities. This is the one that I'm talking about, that the applications and other explanatory material, that which is the second part of the manual, right? You can see there is a paragraph number indicate with A and then a number followed by a numbers, right? So this is to explain to you, like, what is what are the standard sector trying to 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 say, right? And to explain further to you that what does it mean by financials and operational priorities. Paragraph, right, just sentence there. So it might be very difficult for us to understand that what exactly the standard sector wants, right? But if you look at this, right, the explanatory material, so they're trying to tell you that, what does it mean by the financial priority, and what does it mean by the operational priority. Okay, so after you have read these two paragraphs, then you can summarize that, right? So in the process, when you are determining your fee, right, so you need to properly explain in documents, right, that if the fee is too low or the fee is too high, then why you set such a fee, right? So you need to have explanations and documentations. So if your recovery rates are too low, right? So meaning that your fee is very low, then why you still continue with these clients, right? So you have to review that, right? What is the issues and why the recovery rate is so low, right? Then you have to explain, right? So in existing, we do this, right? So when you determine your fee, of course, I believe all the partner, you have a calculator in your brain, right? Then you start calculating after you have considered all the factor A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, then yeah, this fee should be fine, right? So you have all that calculations. And then when you are working on the audit, then the staff will also do some calculation based on the time cost and how much time that they spend and how much time cost they have spent, and then what is the recovery rate, right? So all these things are in place. You have done this, all right? So it is nothing new. The only thing is you have to do it more proper way, that to do a documentation and be very clear that when and who to explain these determinations of fee, right? And where you keep this information, right? When you're doing that in your brain, so the only things that now you need to do is to put that into a black and white, all right? So when there's a low recovery rate in the working paper, I'm sure when you are reviewing the report and when you're reviewing the working papers, and then when you go through that time cost worksheet, then you will start asking your manager, oh, why this job the recovery rate so low? So what are you doing? Right? Have you done all the necessary work in an effective way? So then your manager will explain to you, blah 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 blah. Right? Then you listen to that, and then you okay, ask a few questions. Yeah, okay. Then you sign off. Right? So now what you need to do is you will have to add one more paragraph there, right, in your working paper to explain. Right? So this fee or with this job with a low recovery rates, then what is the reason and what you have considered, right? So you have to make sure that even with a low recovery rate, you doesn't compromise your qualities, right? So you need to do some further documentation. So you need to add into your procedures that you need to review your recovery rates. You need to review the fee determinations, all right, to ensure the firms that even though the fee is low, right, then you are not compromising. Okay, so this will happen, all right. It is not that something that it will happen every day, but it might happen, all right. There are maybe some portfolio that you will want. It is because of it is a very interesting portfolio, right? It is something that it will enhance the portfolio of the firm. Then you think that it is good that for you to take in these clients to enhance the exposure of the staff, right? So there are possible reasons, right, that it will happen. So this is something that, right, you might have to do when it's happened. Okay, so it might not happen, but it may, right? So it will be very helpful, right, if you are to just look into all these things in details, right, and then to put it down. What are the explanations? What are the documentations that you have done? And by doing this, and then you do your benchmarking, and then you put that, right? So if this happened and this documentation is in the audit working paper, right? So you always know where to trace back your documentations. Okay, so that is very important, because when there is too many policy and too many procedures, you might not be able to remember, right, where you keep your documentation. So to do a benchmarking, you put the notes there. So to explain this, to achieve this, so it is in the audit working paper, and which audit working paper. So I just by adding a paragraph. All right. So you need to be very clear as when and who to explain to do this, who to perform, when to perform, and where you keep your information. All right. So this is one thing. And another one that I want to share with you is on the independence check. So independence checking is something very important to us, right? So our quality objective for independence check is to ensure the firm comply with the ethical requirements, right? In particular, the independence, that is very important. So when we are to do our independence check, so we also need to look into what are the risks what is the level of risk that we are facing. So taking ourselves as an example, so in 2019, right, our firm is a TW Tan and Co. We are a solo proprietorship, so I only have one partner. So when coming to 2020, right, when in 2020 we become a TGS TW, so I have 3 audit partners, and then we join the TGS International Network. So when we join an international network and when we have increasing numbers of partners, then it increases the risk of non-compliance of independence, right? As compared to I only have one partner and I don't have any international membership. So we will have a new risk, right, to independence, that which is the international exposure, because we have joined this network, right? So it is not just that we are affecting the network, but the network also affecting us. So it is a two-way. So when come to 2021, we become a TGS TW PLT. Right, so we become a LLP, and then we have 4 partners, and then we join TGS network, and then we register with AOB. So when we register with AOB, we audit the PIE. So when we audit PIE, we have new risk to independence as compared to when we are just auditing the SME, right? So you can see from here, based on the developments of the firm, so there is a changes in the risk level. So by these changes in the risk level, we have to do more procedures, okay? So if you look at this one, right, comparing the 3 status that we have when we are a solo proprietor, when we are just joining the international network, and we are registered with AOB. So when we are the TW Tan, right, our portfolio are only the local SME company. Right? So the type of engagement, we only do one thing, which is just to do audit. So the independence check is very simple because I only have one partner. So the partner declare independence in the acceptance document from the prospective client will be sufficient because he is the only one. So he declared that he checked himself, then he declared that he's independent, and then he can accept the client, right? Very straightforward, very simple process. But as we move on to the second level, that we have 3 partners at 2 locations. So we are at different locations, so the document have to flow from different locations. right? And then we also have a bigger portfolio also, but still all the local SME, and we only do audits, right? We don't do any other things, but we only do audits. But this round, when we have to accept any new client, I have to do an email circulation check, right? I have to circulate the independence check to the partners, right? Because they are at 2 different locations. And then also to complete the non-assurance services checklist, because we do not know, right? Because one is at the other location. So even though that we have the understanding that we are doing audits, right? So maybe with their portfolio, they are providing some other non-assurance services to the clients, right? So it is not just one partner know everything. So we also need to communicate with the other 2 partners that, yeah, we have this new client. So are you aware of them? So do you have any dealing with them, right? Providing any services to them, right? So we need to have a checklist, all right? To confirm that all the partners confirm that we do not perform any non-assurance service to these particular clients, all right? And if you then the next thing that we have to do is we have to look into the client's accounts before the financial statement before we accept it. Clients is to see whether they have overseas investment. So if they have overseas investment, we will have to circulate out to our TGS Global for the network independence check, right? Because we do not know that whether they have any dealing with our international network, right? So there are more things that to do because it is the higher risk that we are facing at the stage 2 here. Okay, so you can see the difference when you are just one person handle everything, right? You are very simple environments, you do not have much things to do. But when you move on to the second stage, you have more partners, then you have to check the other side, right? So what are you doing? So have you been providing any services to this client, right? So do you have any relationship to this particular client? So we still have to check. Right, and then when we have the join the TGS Global International, so we also need to check with the TGS Global if our clients have an investment in overseas. All right. So when it comes to now, right, I have 4 partners at 2 locations, and our portfolio we have the local SME, we also have the PIE, and we do audit and we also do IPO assignment. So it is getting more complicated. So as we're getting more complicated, then there are more procedures that we need to perform, all right? So we have to circulate the independent check to partner and not just limited to partners. So we have to extend that level to engagement manager, right? Because as the team growing bigger, right, the involvement is more from the from the engagement manager. So they are our key engagement team. So we also need to ensure they are independent and do they have any relationship with our clients, right? So we are doing the independent check not just for the audit engagement, but also for any other services, right? The IPO services that which is involved PIE, right? So if we have a new PIE with a specific engagement, then we will have to do the independence check. So it's not just limited to audit, right? And then we also need to complete the non-assurance service checklist, right? To make sure whether we have performed any other services to this particular client, right? Then the same things that if your clients have an overseas investment, we have to circulate to our TGS Global for a network independence check. Okay, so if you compare these 3 different stages, then you will see very clearly that under the ISQM or ISQC, we are doing the same thing, right? Because the risk is increases, we will have to respond accordingly, right? So it is not just the ISQM do that. In fact, we have been doing that all this while, right? So now what we need to do is we have to identify, right? Make it a proper documentation, identify what is the objective, identify what are the responses. So some of the responses is already in your policy, already in your procedures. Then you just need to put that into place to properly identify, to do the matching. So you just need to do the matching, and then you are compliant with ISQM very soon. All right, so not to worry so much. Okay, this is my last slide just to share with you. All right, so this is what my boss told me. Right, she keep telling me that you don't have to be perfect. All right, so you don't need to have a perfect manual, a perfect policy by 15 December 2022, but you have to start engine to work on it and keep going, because quality management is not a one-off assignment. It is an ongoing process. It doesn't mean that when you come up with your policy and procedures and everything by this December, then you are done. All right? No, it is an ongoing process because it is a quality management. All right? It is not just what you have done now, then that's it, that you don't have to move forward. But you will have to make it that it is an ongoing process. When your firm is growing, then you will have to update your policy, update your procedures, update your responses, because you are facing different kinds of risks, right, as you grow. So, and very important, designations of the a designated communication channel for information gathering and discussion. Okay, so I find this is very important. If this is an ongoing process, you must have somebody in place, all right, to do the information gathering, and then to do some filtering, and then collect the information to check consistency, then to discuss and to arrange a discussion, and then to see that what you have to update in your procedures. Okay. And it is not a one-person show, it's not a one-man show, it's not a one-man responsibility, right? When you have a changes to the operational process, it is everyone's responsibility. So you have to get everyone to have the idea that, you know, to implement ISQM1, it is not just the compliance officer issue, it is not just the partner issues, right? It is everybody issues. Everybody have to comply with. Okay. And the next thing that is very important to change your mindset, apply professional skepticism, right? This is something that is very familiar, right? We have been doing that all the time, right? And when you do something new, always think about this, how this would impact the operational process, and then would this affect other departments, right? So if it is, then what are the possible risks? So always with a questioning mind when you're trying to do something new or you're trying to start something new. And then to give information to the communications channel for them to do some gathering, and then to do some digestions, and then to filter, and then to discuss, all right, to see what you have to do with this, and then to address this issue, to address the risk. Okay, so it is not that difficult and it is not that horrible, right? So just don't try to be perfect, all right? Just to start work on it is an ongoing process. So we have a long life to do this. Okay.
After listening to Jat Meng's sharing, I think I noted she shared about a lot about what is the ISQM, then how to do it, so some when to do it, right? So my presentation will focus more on how to do it and when to do it. Right? So my firm is small and medium practitioners, right? We are also registered with the oversight board, right? And we have started the journey 18 months ago for this preparation. So with our firm side, with the limited partner, limited resources, when implemented, we are asking ourselves how we're going to do that. Because we don't have a full-fledged quality control department. We don't have a designated person to do it. So after talking to my partner, we said, look, let's start it. Let's start the process. So then we start. Number one is that we decided we cannot work alone. We need to involve everybody in the whole firm. So with formation of the study group and locate responsibility, we include representative from audit department, even tax department, advisory department. Why tax advisory involved? Because sometimes they do some assurance services like tax due diligence, advisory, some due diligence work. So we want the whole firm to comply the same practice. Of course, when they come to independent, maybe they're less stringent compared to audit services. Then we also include human resource, we include account department, we include IT, we include administration, everybody involved. So we form a team, we have a leadership, then a team member, everybody start. And number two, we have a study, understand the new standard. Number three, comparison of IQC1. And number four, identification of existing policy and procedure. And number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I go detail now. Okay, number one is that formation of a group is led by our quality assurance department. It's a small team, right? Not a full-fledged, led by one of the partners. So we start forming the group, include everybody in the firm, account, HR, IT, audit, tax, advisory, everybody send representatives in the group. Then we start allocate the job based on the ISQM1 standard, allocate the job. HR will study HR matter, account will study finance matter, system will study technology. Even we have started a corporate comm function, to handle the information and communication. That is a new requirement compared to IAQC1. So it has a group to work on. So the partner don't just work alone. Found that is impossible. So we might work with a team, entire firm. Okay, then next, then we start studying the exposure drug implement guide standard. Okay, so there are a lot of material sharing by ISSB, global body, and also sharing from various resources. We start studying, everybody read, and then we analyze, understand the changes. Okay. Then number 3, we study, understand the new standard. What are the new standard? Read through. What is this first? Then number 3, step 3, we compare the IQC1. Actually, like what Jamie says, is that IQC1 is not something new. It's nothing new. Okay, we already implemented since 2006. IQC1 when they implemented, I remember it's over 2006 effective date. IQC1, so already started this process. So we look at what we had, then we compare with the ISQM1 objective, and this round we found that IQM1, the standard must detail, specific clearly for each component what is the quality objective. Then we have to list out the risks that we face. Example, quality of the work. If we don't do the quality, we cannot meet the quality objective, what's the impact, what's the risk? The firm can be reprimanded, there's a risk. The staff morale can be low because the firm don't do a good job. Everybody feel disappointed, people start leaving. Those are the risks. We're losing talent, we're losing client, right? The firm can be suspended, can be reprimanded. So these are risks. Okay. Then we see how can we respond. And then we knowledge sharing with partner and colleague. Right? We have a regular discussion as a team. Right? We don't need a big team. Depending on size of organization. Our organization not big. Until now we only have 50 over people, and we started with around 30 over staff. Growing slowly, we have 50 now. So it's a small team compared to the big 10, big 6. Okay. So then we have roundtable discussion on action plan. And then this is the comparison format. We tabulate the IQC1 requirement, we tabulate IQM1 requirement. What is the difference? Because IQC1, we already have established this process in the firm. So we don't want to start something new. No, we just look at what the IQC1 system, right? And then compare to the new requirement, we identify the new. Okay. After that, identification existing process, we go to ISQM1, identify AD, then we look at response, allocate task force for each component. Leadership, relevant governance leadership, right? Relevant ethics, acceptance of new appointment of client, right? And resources, risk assessment. The new one now is a risk assessment and information and communication. These two are new, right? And IQC look at the control. Either you do it or don't do it. Without looking at the risk. If the risk is low, sometimes we still have to do it because of control. But now IQM1 give an opportunity to say, well, if the risk is low, after assessment, I can reduce my scope. So that's called scalability. Okay, so after we go through it, we learn about it. So we focus on those risky area to us, or to the firm, right, to the client. Right? Then brainstorm, quality risk responses, how do you respond? And sharing our partner, again, we have a regular discussion online during the MCO. Even MCO, we still can have meeting online using Zoom, using WhatsApp to share information. Keep going, because we take a 18-month process. Okay, then number 5, we review quality objective, brainstorming quality risk and responses. This is how we documented. Okay, column by column, quality objective, matching the risk, respond, how do you want to respond? Then apply to risk department, apply to audit, tax, advisory, and even academic department, right? Also because we decided, partnership decided, say everybody must comply. We don't want exception. Okay, of course, scalability come in to play decision making. Okay, but we start from the highest first, then we scale down step by step. Then number 6, action plan. How do you want to respond in line with ISQM1? And this now in Gantt chart format, so that we have dedicated a person, a manager, here to help us, to guide us, to monitor, to remind us. Timeline is important for us. Okay, I know we are all busy. Share with my partner, I share with my manager, team leader. I said we know that we are busy, but we must learn time management. It's a challenge for us as a team. Okay. And number 7, this is our format, Gantt chart, monitor. We have launched our application in the ISQM 1st of July. Okay. And then allocation of time, coordination, PSC and chart follow-up. Very important, partner don't do alone. Okay, don't. Even we are sole proprietor, we have manager, we have senior, we have HR, we have account, so we still can do that. But of course, I know some firms say, oh, I only have 1 partner, 4 staff. You still have somebody do account, isn't it? Or you do ourselves. I just started like that. I do myself, account, HR, everything, 1 leg kick. So no choice, we have to do 1 leg kick. But if we need to, we can invite external party to come and invest a bit, invite somebody come and do paper documentation. Of course, being a smaller firm, we don't handle PIE, so the risk response can be scalable. How to scalable? We look at the nature of client and portfolio. Because end of the day, we need to issue the opinion appropriate in the circumstances. That is a ultimate. Okay. Then number 8, progress meeting. We have regular meeting, discussion, right, and partner improvement constantly. All partner always have talked to other fellow practitioner. We have a discussion. When we learn something, we feedback. Then we adjust our approach. In fact, now we are still learning. Okay? Number 9. Lastly, we managed to launch it 1st July. This 18-month process, we see the opportunity to introduce any SOP to strengthen our process, our interview process. Like example, candidate. The risk is that we don't want to recruit the wrong candidate. If we are wrong candidate recruited, the person resign 1 or 2 months, then waste on. So we say, how can we reduce the resignation rate? So we say we improve the admission stage. So we strengthen our review process. In the past, our interview is about 45 minutes. Now our process is about 2 hours, including personality tests, including IQ tests, even some language tests, even some technical questions. So that we recruit the right people. Personality test will help us say whether this person is suitable for this profession. You all know that we work about 24 hours. Okay, not sometimes it will be 12 hours. So this kind of lifestyle where not everybody can take it. So we said no, we don't. If we cannot get right people, we rather don't recruit. Okay, rather don't take up the job. We turn down the client. We have been turning a lot of assignment. No choice. Okay, we got lack of resources. It's okay. Right? We want to keep happy, partners sleep well, and so on. So 1st July we have started implementing the whole firm, all the document chain. Now we are in the process of implementation. We also have a deadline by September. Everybody must feedback any further improvement. Okay, so this is our process, 9 steps until today. Now we go on being an SMP, and the challenges here is this something we always say we don't know what we don't know. Really, sometimes this ISQM we ask around and nobody had implemented it before. Is there any expert in market? I don't think so, because I have never done before. So a lot of people don't know what is don't know, right? So we have to study and read using our common sense, applying our knowledge, our years of training to apply what is appropriate for our firm. So this one, teamwork, very important. I will share with the fellow practitioner here. Don't work alone, right? You like a size of company, involve your team, involve everybody. Initially, yes, very negative, say, oh, because I don't know what to do, or I don't know. Yes, I face this problem also. I said, never mind, let's sit down together, read. Every time, the more we read, the more we discuss, then we give them motivation as a leadership, then they start changing. Got confidence coming in. Okay, then open for group discussion, staff all level. We have a regular discussion, feedback from the staff. Discuss for other practitioners. We're always meeting other practitioners to share their experience. We listen to them, how they do it. Because one thing we found, this system of quality management is very dynamic. There's no one size fit all system. Okay, everybody can design the response to meet the objective. As long as I meet the objective, manage a risk, that's a good system already. That's good practice already. So that is a like interview questionnaire. Some can be 1 pages, some can be 5 pages, can be many. So how much is adequate depend on type of people you want, or depend on the level of assurance you are offering. Are we handling listed company? Can we accept error? If a listed company cannot. Private company maybe little bit. So these are things we have to decide scalability. Okay, every comment into account, time resources, begin the process earlier, set timeline. It's a challenges because we are all busy. Nobody is free. We have a job to earn, we have deadline to meet, we have billing to raise, we have collection to collect, we need to pay our bill every month. There's no different from everybody. So, but we have to learn to manage. Okay, that's what we do. Thanks to our team. And benefit, we learn. For the 18 months, we learn, understand the firm overall better. Because we really go through, the whole team really go through the firm. The human resource, IT, account, entire process, not just audit, also entire process go through. Hence, knowledge on, we enhance our knowledge IQC1 and ISQM1. And we learn 2 also, then ISA 220. Fun part is that frequent, what people say with discussion with partner and colleague, we have discussion, and then also sharing section with MIA. We also learn from MIA section, learn from other practitioners, right? And then we're sharing with our network members, other country. We see how they implement that standard of quality management. So that's a benefit we learn from the 18-month journey, right? And so being a SMP, so teamwork, forming a team, do it. I think this is the way we need to go. So don't work alone and enjoy the journey. So that is our some of the sharing. And think beyond conventional way, just how Jamie said, think beyond. Start the whole process earlier. I noted just now the statistics, some already started, many 81% already started. That's very good news. So maybe you want to improve further. Don't worry, there's no perfect system. There's no perfect. Okay, you have started, I feel it's good enough. Just continue doing it. So I will thank you all you all for the listening. That's my sharing.